Hey folks, welcome back to the old Jarhead, where today I'm probably going to stir up some controversy. Well, maybe not. But I want to talk about power stations and generators and which one you should have, if either, or maybe both. Let's find out. So what is a power station? Well, first of all, a power station is a power storage device that allows delivery of that power through various means to the user. So what that means is the power station has a battery. Most modern power stations have lithium ferrous phosphate batteries, LiFePO4s, and they have an inverter. An inverter converts the DC direct current power of the battery to AC current or alternating current, and here in North America, that'd be 120 volts. That way you can plug in your coffee maker or whatever it is, your refrigerator or whatever you want to run off your power station. They also have usually a number of different DC type connections. So USB is DC. So you've got a platform essentially that has a battery and a way of delivering that power to you to use until the power runs out. They also have a means of replenishing that power. So if you think of a power station from that perspective, it stores power, allows delivery of that power, i.e. you get to use it, and it has a means of taking in more power to store. And that is, for example, you could plug it in the wall socket, takes that 120 volt AC current, converts it through a DC charger to charge the battery up that's within the unit. But that's it. That's your power station. It can use utility power to charge it up. You can use solar power to charge it up. You could use a DC converter in your car to charge it up. You could use a generator to charge it up through that 120 volt port. But in a sense, what you're doing is you're charging up the battery in the power station so that it can store that power and use it when you need it. But that's it. That's a power station. It has no means of recharging itself. Something has to charge it up. And those are great for emergency use or for camping or RVing or off-grid cabins and all that kind of stuff because you've got power, but it is finite. That means it will run out. So what's the difference between that and a generator? I mean, a generator will run out too, right? That's one of the arguments I see a lot of people make. Well, yeah, but when the generator runs out of gas or propane or diesel, it's out too. True. Very true. However, it takes a lot less time to fill up a gas tank on a generator than it does to fill up, if you will, the battery on a power station. Power stations typically take anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5 hours to charge up, depending on the charging means and how big the battery is. If you have a 2,000 watt hour battery on your power station and you've got 1,000 watts that it can charge it up, well, it's going to take 2+ hours. If it's got 1,500 watts, well, you're looking at about 1.5 hours. If you have a 5-gallon gas tank on your generator, it's going to take you about 30 seconds to fill it up, assuming you don't spill the gas and make a mess. It doesn't take any time at all. But if the generator runs out, power stops, right? If the generator's turned off, power stops. Well, if a power station runs out of electricity, it stops too. Which one's right for you? Well, let's think about this. With a power station, you can put it in your bedroom, in your kitchen, in your living room, or anywhere else in your house, and it doesn't off-gas any kind of noxious fumes, and it's not noisy. In fact, they're virtually quiet, unless their fans are running, and then they're really not that noisy. But you can't run your generator in your house because it'll asphyxiate you, right? That would be bad. Exhaust fumes are bad. They have oil and things in them that can drip and make a mess, so they're typically dirty and greasy, and you want them outside. But when your generator's running outside, everybody in the neighborhood knows you're running a generator. So if you've got a power outage and you're running your generator, maybe you got a nice diesel or even a propane generator like on my camper, it's putting out quite a bit of noise. Even a quiet generator like the Hondas still put out about 50 dB at 10 feet. You might have a hard time hearing them a block away in the middle of the night when it's quiet. You might hear one. And people don't necessarily like that. So on one hand, generators are fast to refill, easy to run. You pull start, boom, away they go. Or maybe you got a push start on yours and away they go. They fire up. And as long as they've got fuel, they'll run fine. Most power stations with LiFePO4 batteries are going to cut you off around -4 degrees. So let's say it's 20 below out, which isn't uncommon at my cabin in the winter. Well, I can't put my power station outside and run it. It's not going to work. And I certainly couldn't charge it back up again. But I can put fuel in my generator. And I've got a 500-gallon propane tank for my generator. I've run that generator at 30 below, folks. Works fine. I couldn't do that with my power station. I'd have to have it inside the house, which you could do. So both of them have limitations. Both of them have pros and cons. I would say the biggest pro with a generator is that they're really fast to refill, they're easy to operate, and they provide usually good, reliable power. Even the cheapest Champion 3500 watt generator that I bought, oh gosh, back around 2007, provided good, solid power for me for several years, at least 10 years, before I sold it for the price I paid for it. It worked great, it worked fine. And I've got a generator in my camper. It works fine, it produces great power, no problem. And with today's inverter generators and dual fuel, flex fuel generators, not only do they produce good power, but they're fairly quiet and they're even flexible on the fuel and they sip the fuel. A 5-gallon tank might run a generator all day long for you. So that's a big pro. Being able to quickly, fuel them up and go, that's awesome. And they typically produce more power than your power stations typically do. Power stations, the smaller ones usually only have about anywhere from 1,000 to a 2,000 watt inverter, maybe 2,400 watts. But small generators are usually in that 2,400 to 4,500 watt range. That's just a small generator. You can get big generators that produce a lot more. My generator at the cabin is a 6,000 watt generator. It would take an awfully big power station to do that. Now, on the other hand, one of the cons, they're noisy. That's probably the biggest con. They're noisy. They're noisy and you can't refuel them with solar power, right? That's kind of a con in a major outage, especially if there's plenty of sun, but you can't get any gasoline or diesel or propane for your generator. The generator is just a big dead weight then. Can't hook up a solar panel and charge it back up. But that's maybe less of an issue because you could just get fuel out of your car, perhaps, or have extra fuel ready for an outage. They're smelly, they're dirty, they're heavy. Now, power stations, they're quiet, they're clean, they don't smell. Yeah, you can't fill them up under 30 seconds, but you can hook up solar panels to them and harvest solar energy to charge them back up. Might take 4 or 5 hours, depending on how much solar they'll allow, but you can do that. And you can run them at the same time while you're doing it. So that's nice. Nobody's going to hear that you're running it. If there's a major outage, your neighbors aren't going to know that you're running a power station to keep your refrigerator running. They might not notice that you're watching television at night when nobody else has power. You can power a lot of different devices off of them, and they have several means of recharging them. Those are all pretty cool features. So, which one's right for you? Well, I'm going to tell you that if you're looking at this from the perspective of one or the other, I think you're looking at it the wrong way. And I know I told you I'd tell you which one. Well, here's the thing. They both have their place. They both have strengths and weaknesses, pros and cons. So from my perspective, if you're looking at emergency backup power, I would recommend that you have both. Yes, both. I would have a dual fuel or flex fuel inverter generator, something in that 2,000 to 3,000 watt range, and then a power station of sufficient size to run the things that you need to run during an emergency situation. You could get by for a week or even weeks with that combination because the generator is going to power up your power station, and if you did it during the day, and this is key, because if you do it during the day when there's more noise around, more people are going to not really take notice of that generator, and they're quiet enough that if you put it in your backyard, you might not notice it at all. And it only runs for a couple hours, because then your power station starts back up again. If you also have backup batteries for your power station and a charger for them, you could then hook up that charger to the generator and the power station to the generator, charge your extra batteries and the power station within that couple hours. Folks, you could maybe even get by without charging your power station and batteries every day. So having both, in my opinion, for emergency type situations is far, far better than trying to choose one or the other. I hope that helps somebody out. Meanwhile, folks, I'm going to drop another video right here for you to check out. Thanks for watching, folks. Y'all have a great day. The old Jarhead out.